It's another edition of Time About the Movies. Today we're taking a look at the films of August 2nd, 2002. We got 4 movies to look at today, so let's go ahead and jump on into it. We'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is M. Night Shyamalan's third film, well, his third notable film after The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable. That is Signs. You have Mel Gibson as an Episcopalian priest named Graham Hess, who discovers a series of crop circles in his cornfield, and that the phenomenon is a result of extraterrestrial life. Now, I know this movie has a lot of fans to it. Everyone thinks that the one movie that came after this, The Village, was the beginning of M. Night Shyamalan's downfall. I think this is the one that really began his downfall. This is not a very good movie. I don't think it's a very good movie. There's a lot of good people involved in it. Mel Gibson, Joaquin Phoenix, Rory Culkin, Abigail Breslin, one of her early film roles. I think her earliest film role, honestly. But the movie really does not work. I mean, it's boring. The characters are not that interesting at all. They all speak in a monotone pitch. ASMR has more emotion to it than the people that act in this movie. The aliens are not that good looking either. They're just typical generic alien designs. Like, they're not really anything too special or anything too exciting. They're just bland alien designs. There are too many scenes in the movie where nothing is going on. There's too many moments in the movie where characters are acting so bizarre and so weird, like the army guy that Joaquin Phoenix goes to talk to. Like, his eyes never look like he's always looking right at you, and his mouth never closes. It's just like he's speaking in that monotone voice too. It's just like what is your deal, man? This is the show's the beginning of the downfalls of many of Shyamalan's movies. After this, is at this point, from this point onward, because all the characters are very monotone. There's trying to be more. What do I want to say here? I'm trying to say that the writing gets extremely pretentious at times. M. Night Shyamalan really is getting to that point where his ego is starting to take over big time. And like I said, there's not that much that happens that makes this movie interesting. This is a movie that's over 2 hours long. Not even that, almost 2 hours long. But still, it feels like you're sitting there for a long period of time where nothing is going on. You're just kind of like, what did people see in this movie that I didn't see? I mean, I guess the marketing did a good job of selling the film. I guess the atmospheric elements of it kind of work in some way, shape, or form. But the execution and how it's delivered, it ruins the ebb and flow of the movie. There's nothing about this movie that is exciting. There's nothing about this movie that's engaging, or you get involved in the mysterious aspects. These aliens can't get through doors. And even to the point where Mel Gibson has to say, they seem to have trouble getting through pantry doors. Like, they can't get through pantry doors. They can't last on our planet because the entire Earth's covered in water, which, why were we afraid of these guys again? Nothing about this makes any sense whatsoever, and it just ruins the ebb and flow of what the movie was trying to sell you on. This was the movie that made me realize that M. Night Shyamalan has a little bit of an ego to him, because after this, it just went downhill from there before it eventually slowly but surely rise back up again about 10 years after this. But this was the point where that goodwill he had built up with The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable had just kind of started to go away. At least to me it did. I know a lot of people love this movie, and I personally think you're wrong, but that's my personal opinion. But that's Signs for you. That is M. Night Shyamalan's Signs. So let's go ahead and move on to a movie that, you know what? As much as I hate Signs, it's Citizen Kane compared to our next movie. Let's talk about the infamy that is Dana Carvey in The Master of Disguise. So something we should pretty much clear up here right from the get-go. There was a rumor that for the longest time there was the turtle scene, which was all over the marketing. They thought that this was going to be the big laugh-out-loud moment of the movie, but there was a belief that they actually filmed that on the day of the September 11th attacks. It happened right as September. The news came out that the World Trade Centers were attacked, and they were filming that day. They had a moment of silence, and Carvey was still in the turtle outfit during the moment of silence, and there was the belief that happened on September 11th, but that turned out to be a rumor. And when you really think about it, the timing was off on that, because, first of all, on September 11th, the Twin Towers were attacked around between 8 and 9 o'clock in the morning, which means that on the West Coast in Hollywood, it would have been probably 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. So unless they decided to shoot early that morning for some odd reason, like they wanted to get, like they thought that they needed to film this scene early in the morning, yeah, you could pretty much figure out that that was not meant to be true. And the director even confirmed that that did happen. However, it took place the weeks after the attack. So it basically happened it's after the September 11th attacks, weeks after the attack. So it didn't happen on the day that it happened, which kind of takes away some of the jokes I was going to put in here, because yeah, when you see the Turtle Club all over the marketing for this, and you hear the story about the fact that this was originally supposed to shot on September 11th, like, the comedy should be there for you to really get some laughs out of it. But just like the rest of this movie, comedy is not a factor in here, because, my God, this is one of the worst comedies of the year. I would say the worst comedy of the year, but wait until we get to 2 weeks later. Wait until we get to the movie that Eddie Murphy decided to do before we get to that, because that one is much, much worse. But this ain't any better. I mean, I feel so bad for Dana Carvey. I mean, the guy can be extremely funny when you give him the right stuff to do, but in this, it really does feel like Adam Sandler forced him to do this movie. The plot, I think you could pretty much get from the gist of it here, is about a man who is trained to become a master of disguise by his grandfather when a master criminal kidnaps his father. And, I mean, this movie is about as despicable in its we don't give a fuckness as you could get. I mean, you can watch this movie and see that nobody cared about what they were doing, and they were all just cashing in a paycheck. It's just a lackluster film on so many levels. It wasn't funny. It wasn't clever. It's just a mess of a movie, a sloppy mess of a film that, you know, you understand why Dana Carvey hasn't done another leading role since this movie. I mean, this was supposed to be his big return after so many years of not making a leading role in a film. I think the last film he actually did before this was Clean Slate, which was a far better movie by comparison. But this, yeah, this was a rough sit through. I mean, you want to know what the crazy thing about this is? This thing actually does have one good running gag, and it involves, of all things, a fart joke. A fart joke and Data from Star Trek, Brent Spiner, who plays the villain. And it's the one thing in the movie that I can honestly say is funny, because it just comes out of nowhere. You don't really expect anything from it, and, like, all of a sudden, there it is. Like, it surprisingly is funny. Like, not haha funny, but it's still, like, the one moment in the movie where it's just like, oh my God, I actually got a laugh out of that. Like, it's like that was the one thing they really cared about. But the movie is lazy too. Like, the movie, I mean, it's just under 80 minutes. It says 80 minutes long, but the real movie is only an hour long, and there's 15 minutes worth of stuff in the credits. Pointless bloopers, scenes that don't make a whole lot of sense. The movie is over by the 65-minute mark, and there's no reason why you should be sitting in the theater at this point. Like, it baffles me how bad this movie is. Like, it really, really baffles me how this movie ended up being as bad as it was. And surprisingly, it's not the worst comedy of the year. Like I said, we've still got 2 weeks' time before we get to the true worst comedy of the year. One of the worst movies I've ever seen. But we'll save that for another couple of weeks. But for this, avoid this movie like the plague. Even if I told you about that one gag that was funny, it's just kind of like, it's not worth it to see this film. Not by a long shot, by any means necessary. Just a massive failure on so many levels. Yeah, avoid Master of Disguise. How about a comedy that actually is funny? How about some Martin Lawrence? Martin Lawrence Live, Run Tell Dat. So Martin Lawrence Live, Run Tell Dat is the second Martin Lawrence stand-up comedy movie after You So Crazy came out in 1994. And, you know, kind of like with what Richard Pryor did with his first comedy movie back in the 1980s. This was a movie that was kind of like, it came after Lawrence had all these different controversies going on in his life. Like, he lashed out in a violent rage and was then hospitalized while he was filming A Thin Line Between Love and Hate. He went on a mental bender, brandishing a pistol in the middle of an intersection in Los Angeles. You know, when he's screaming at the top of your lungs, "They're trying to kill me! They're trying to kill me!" And he actually ended up with 2 years probation. He was accused of sexual assault from his co-star Tisha Campbell Martin, and, you know, this was right at the end of his show coming to an end on Fox. He was then arrested for punching a man in a Hollywood nightclub. He actually collapsed from heat exhaustion while he was making Big Mama's House. So while he was making these movies, there was all these things going on in his life that are addressed in this film. And also, he talks about taking the lengthy hiatus, doing tackling subject matter such as marriage, his divorce, childbirth, old age, and a lot of the times the jokes in here can be funny, but in terms of stand-up comedy movies, it's probably not the best overall stand-up comedy film that I've seen. Like, I have a special softness for the Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy movies, and Martin Lawrence, I think, does good enough of a job here to keep you invested in what's going on, and the delivery can be very funny, but I mean, the film itself is just kind of okay. There's nothing about it that's bad per se. Nothing really that bad about the material and all. It's just kind of like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like you're getting what you really expect to get from a movie like this. I feel like you kind of want to expect more from it. Like when Richard Pryor had made that movie after he got caught on after he was set on fire. Like, he was on his A game with the jokes in that movie, and like that's kind of the high bar for something like this. You kind of expect to see Martin Lawrence in that same status too, but he doesn't really go that far. Like, the stuff he says and the jokes he talks about are funny, but I don't know. It just didn't feel like all of his A game was really in this particular film, and it really did kind of let me down the first time I saw the movie. But as time went on, I did slowly but surely start to grow an attachment to it again, to a point where I was just kind of like, you know what, for what it is, it's fine. It definitely could have been a whole lot better, but I really like what I saw from here, and it's Martin Lawrence doing stand-up comedy. I mean, it's really good stuff. I like it. So, recommendation slightly for Martin Lawrence live until that. So, let's go ahead and move on to the last movie, and that is Steven Soderbergh with the first of two movies he made in 2002, Full Frontal. Yeah, even Steven Soderbergh can get a little too pretentious for his own good, and this film, I think, was definitely one of those examples. It says it's a sort of sequel to Sex, Lies, and Videotape, but not so much. The storyline of this movie is the fact that this is a day in the life of a group of men and women in Hollywood in the hours leading up to a friend's birthday party. In fact, the original title for this particular film was called How to Survive a Hotel Room Fire, but because of September 11th, they actually had to change the title to The Art of Negotiating a Turn, and that wasn't even the end of that, because Harvey Weinstein actually called the producers and said he didn't like the new movie title, so Soderbergh then changed it over to Full Frontal, and thus we have the movie that we have here. A strong cast in this movie: David Duchovny, Enrico Colante, Nikki Katt, Catherine Keener, Mary McCormick, David Hyde Pierce, Julia Roberts, Blair Underwood, Jeff Garland, Terrence Stamp, Brad Pitt guest stars himself in here in this. I mean, like I said, Steven Soderbergh makes a lot of good movies, but this is the one where I really do feel like he was being a little too pretentious for his own good. It's a movie that I think that there was a good idea involved in here, but just not the right execution overall. I feel like it's a movie that is way too so far of its own butt that it really doesn't know what its existence is supposed to be about. Like, what's supposed to be the big takeaway from this movie? Like, why am I here? What is the reason why I should be back in here to enjoy this film? And it's just like, there's nothing really about it that makes it stand out here. And this kind of ended the streak of really good movies from Soderbergh, because he went on a little bit of a lull starting with this. His next film was not that great. He did a couple of movies that weren't as strong, like Eros, Ocean's 12, but then he kind of slowly but surely started coming back on track again in the middle part of the decade. And but this was one of the first movies where it was just like, yeah, this really wasn't your best stuff, and it really does show. It's unfortunate, because there is a lot about here that might work, specifically with the cast alone, but the film doesn't know really what it wants to do with itself. Like, what does it really want to be here? And it's just like, you just never really get the full impact of what it's trying to do here. Like, it doesn't really know how to sell itself. It just wasn't an enjoyable film. Like, it kind of drags too. I think it's a really long movie, but it's only an hour and a half. It's only a little bit over an hour and a half long, but it's one of those movies that really, the pacing really hurts it in the long run. And like I said, it feels so pretentious that you really feel like it's saying that it's better than you without even letting you know about it. But it's just like, yeah, I got nothing else to say about this one. This is almost a dull movie. A really lackluster film with so many elements that maybe could have worked, but it just didn't in the end. So a hard pass on Full Frontal. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies, and the next time we meet, we'll have 4 more movies to look at, including Vin Diesel and his first big success after Fast and Furious XXX, the sequel to Spy Kids 2, The Island of Lost Dreams, Clint Eastwood's latest film, Bloodwork, and one of Jennifer Aniston's first films outside of Friends, The Good Girl, which is I should say first movie outside of her the normal rom-com routine. This is more of a straightforward drama. We'll talk about The Good Girl along with the 3 other movies I mentioned. So 4 films we'll look at next time overall. With that said, thank you so much for watching. And if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page. Check out the previous episode. And also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on the channel. So with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time. And until then, as always, take care.